The secret is out. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is here, and it's what you've been waiting on. The action never stops. Live odds, live bets, live excitement. The biggest sportsbook is waiting on you. Your team, your moment, your win. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players.
Welcome to the Accredited, powered by 10th year seniors here on Guardian Radio 96.9. I'm Ronaldo, riding solo in studio today, and today's episode of the Accredited, like all of the rest of them, is brought to you by Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Now, this is where the action never stops, and the odds, of course, are always in your favor. Whether you're riding with the NBA, the NHL, take advantage of Matchday Media, by the way, if you're betting on the Big Five. My favorite is the Bundesliga because I just like saying Bundesliga. But Matchday Mania in soccer is something that I always look forward to on the weekend. That's just one of the things you can take advantage of on Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Whether you're chasing totals, jumping on live in-game bets, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook gives you real-time lines, competitive payouts, and the flexibility to bet your way. So don't just watch the game. You got to get in the game. Log on online, set your picks, make every decision count. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, because when you bet smart, everybody wins, right? Especially you. We have a lot to get to today, and there has been so much going on, both inside the world of sports and some of it just tangentially connected to sports and their real-world issues, and those are some of the ones that we are going to begin with. So our first segment, where we love to start local, but of course, both of these have a flair for the international. So we got to start kind of philosophical for a second. So there were a few stories this week, well, two in particular, that really made me question the relationship between athletes and the media in 2026. So growing up, to me, that relationship always felt transactional. It always felt like there was something that the athlete would be gaining from the media, and that was the attention that was driving the narratives towards where they needed to be for whatever reason, whether it's just for the acclaim of people, whether it's for endorsements, or as we've seen recently, whether it's just for the fact that you want to become this likable character. And it could help you in your post-career in terms of getting into the Hall of Fame and other opportunities. That relationship doesn't seem transactional anymore, and I don't even know if both of these parties need each other. It kind of feels like these parties resent each other. Now the relationship between athletes and the media seems more algorithmic. Everything is about drawing attention and what that attention brings to you. Clicks are currency. Outrage has now become the oxygen that feeds the entire machine. And discretion is pretty much all gone. Pretty much all gone. Because at the end of the day, is anybody really driving towards discretion when that doesn't grant you the clicks, likes, and shares that you need in the attention economy, right? So let's talk about these two stories that were all over headlines. The first one, these are two completely different scenarios, but I think they're all affected in the same ecosystem, right? Or ecosystem. Tomato, tomato. But the first thing we have to get to is everything in the drama surrounding DeAndre Ayton. And when this story happened, first I kind of did the head slap, put my hand on my forehead, furrowed my brow, and I was like, what in the world is going on? And then immediately after, my first thought was, okay, there has to be more information about this, because everything that we saw posted online seemed kind of hollow. And the first thing I saw of it came from a tabloid. Then it started to be shared by some reputable news outlets, which was kind of shocking to me, because I started thinking, Well, when are we taking cues from tabloids? Why is that a thing that we're taking the cues from them? Why are they setting the tone for how anything is covered or how anything should be covered? But I digress. So let's talk about, because one of the most talked about things in this entire situation are the facts of what happened. So according to DeAndre Ayton's lawyer, there was a small amount of marijuana found in one of his travel companion's bags. That group was detained. They were quickly released. The initial report was that DeAndre Ayton was arrested. And it was clear that the way the story was presented, or why the story was even delivered in the first place, was trafficking in his stardom as an LA Laker, in his stardom as a Bahamian national team superstar. Words matter. Whenever you're talking about journalism, social media, whenever you're talking about someone's character, the words matter so much. And there is a drastic difference between being detained and being arrested. That matters so much to the person who you're talking about, because especially someone whose livelihood more than likely rides on their character and more than likely could ride on their rap sheet. You saying that person is arrested makes a world of difference. So we saw all of those posts, we saw all of those stories being shared, and then slowly but surely, as things start to play out, as the story gets fleshed out, turns out he was never actually arrested. Different legal meanings, different public perceptions. And I am sure, I can actually say this, positive that his camp extremely PO'd, I can't say what I usually say on podcasts, extremely PO'd on how that kind of thing went down. And I would be too. I would be too, particularly when you see news organizations have to shift what they said and take down original posts. The question is, why does the original post have to go up there in the first place? Are we in a space where it's actually prudent for a perceived proper news platform to sacrifice checks and balances, to sacrifice searching truth in the name of just being first? Is being first with information rather than being accurate, is being first the most important thing? What does it buy you? What does it get you? And immediately my first thought was, well, why were we so quick to run with the most damaging version of this? It shifted from what does this actually buy you and what does that mean to why is this the thing? Why do we love scandal, and why does that spread faster than clarification? I mean, if you work in the news industry, and I have for a long time, I do not consider myself a journalist, by the way. There are a lot of old school tenets of journalism that have stuck with me because that's how I was trained. But I just don't consider myself that, because I'm not going out and doing the work of an actual journalist. My lane is so much more towards entertaining, towards podcasting and presenting opinion in a different way, that I'm not even going to sully the name of journalism by saying what I do is considered that. But I do respect the craft, right? And I think there's always going to be an important role for the craft, because we need it. We need it. And this story is one of the things that showed me why we need it so much. Scandal spreads so much faster than the clarification, because the thing about it is, when the story shifted and the real news about what happened came out, there were no clarifications made by anybody who made erroneous posts before. Nobody, Charlemagne the God says this the most on The Breakfast Club, right? Nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining. The correction will never get the same engagement. The original post saying that he was arrested spread like wildfire in every WhatsApp group. All y'all saw it. No matter your age, you saw it. But when the correction came out, nothing. Drama always monetizes better than nuance. Nobody wants to hear the nuance and it wasn't his, or it was a brief interaction that could have all been avoided. Nobody wants to hear that. They want the scandal. They want the negative press. They want to say all the negative things that you probably thought about a person. You want your opportunity to let loose on that. And I'm sure y'all saw a lot of that too in your groups, because I did. All the things that people previously thought about DeAndre Ayton, whether it was about basketball or having multiple nationalities in terms of his heritage and his family, all the stuff that people have said about him, all the stuff that we've been pushing back against for years, it's like everybody let this one story cause all of that to flood for the surface, and you tell us how you really feel. I want to talk some about tabloids leading the coverage, and I kind of alluded to that, right? And yes, the way our news is consumed, completely different in 2026. Blogs are the ones that break stories, and social media amplifies it. Then traditional media reacts to it. Is that the right way that any of this should be going down? Think about it again. You got the blogs breaking the story, the social media amplifies it, and then the traditional media is the one that reacts and kind of follows up. And if that's the way it's done, if that's the way it has to go down, I guess. I don't think it should be, but let's just say for the sake of argument, that's the way the model is now. If the traditional media is reacting to it, then I think it's your job to provide depth and to provide clarity, because the burden of being right is on traditional media. Nobody cares about whether a blog or a tabloid page gets something right, because they never have to correct anything. Nobody holds them to that standard. But if you are traditional media, then you should be beholden to a different standard. It should matter to you. Because I think the journalist should be the one leading. The journalist shouldn't be the one chasing the algorithm. There should be more of a high moral calling, so to speak. And maybe that's the old school part of it that I think. But there should be some morality baked into what you do and to what you think when these things come up. The context matters. The reputations matter. But now we seem to just be stuck in a place where the race to post overrides the race to confirm. And as someone that runs a social media platform, I ain't even sure what y'all getting out of it. I really don't know. And some people will say, yes, if you're famous, it comes with the territory. That's an easy counter to make. But it doesn't eliminate responsibility in reporting. It doesn't eliminate responsibility in handling someone's character the right way. And here's a different wrinkle to this story, right? And irrespective of whatever you actually think about marijuana. Yes, still illegal in the Bahamas. I get it. I understand that. But the way my generation looks at it, I'm positive is completely different than the way an older generation looks at it, right? The NBA itself does not even test for marijuana anymore. DeAndre Ayton plays in a state where readily available. I was just there for All-Star Weekend. It's everywhere. So whether he does or does not partake isn't even the issue here. Let's not use that to make this story about that. Because that's what the story has become. And then it's linked to a whole slew of other things that we don't really have to get into. But I think the main thing here is the attention economy is a gift and it's a curse. And you got to think about the consequences of this, right? Because I'm not telling anybody how to do their jobs. Don't mistake any of this for that. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm simply asking you to consider the effects of what happens. And I said this in my closing on the news the other night. I think we got to have some level of discretion here. Because, I mean, when I think about it, if this is me, if I'm DeAndre Ayton here, I'm thinking, well, what's the point of being rich and famous if being rich and famous buys me nothing? It doesn't buy me discretion? And before you clutch your pearls and say everyone should be held to the same standard, blah, blah, blah. No, everyone is not held to the same standard. That is not the society we live in. We're pretty much taught that you chase all of this money, power, and influence so you're not held to the same standard. I just want y'all hold DeAndre Ayton to the same standard that y'all would hold the politicians y'all love and revere so much. Because I guarantee you, if it was one of them, y'all would expect some level of discretion. And they can't even dunk. Well, most of them. Rick Fox probably could dunk. But the rest of them can't even dunk. This all could have been squashed very easily. It didn't have to get to that point. It most certainly did not have to go international. But it did. It reached everywhere. It reached Reuters. It was on ESPN. But I will say one thing. Everybody else that reported it said detained and quickly released. Did not say arrested, because words matter. And you know why discretion matters more than anything else in this case? I'll be completely honest. Y'all could ruin this entire Olympics for me. I mean, yeah, for the country, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But for me, we have one 7-footer. One 7-footer. We definitely have one 7-footer drafted number 1 overall in the NBA draft who has averaged a double-double for 7 years in a row. One of those, we're not making a run towards the Olympics without DeAndre Ayton. And this entire, in air quotes, scandal, this entire ridiculous thing that went on, it could jeopardize our entire relationship and the way he looks at us. Because I'll tell you, he may have just broken up with us and we have no idea. Let me explain something to y'all older people that may not know. You can tell everything about a relationship status from social media. So if you go to DeAndre Ayton's Instagram, @Dominating, he always had 3 flags in his bio. Jamaican flag, Nigerian flag, Bahamian flag. You know what his bio looks like now after this whole thing? Nigerian flag, Jamaican flag. No Bahamian flag. So to the perpetrators of everything that went on, I hope y'all are happy. Because you may have just cost us the Olympics. So thanks. I hope the fake arrest and the stories and the clicks and likes and shares were all worth it. Okay, let's get to the next one that dominated the news cycle. And this one I hate even more than the first one, because we really got to try our best to stay out of people's relationships. But this one comes across the desk because it's sports related and because I know there is going to be a reaction for it, or there was a reaction to it rather. And I mean, the whole 10YS mantra is sports and pop culture, and this is the intersection of that. So it seems as if it's tailor-made for us to talk about, right? So Jazz Chisholm's ex-girlfriend has been trending. She's been trending because people love scandal. She's been trending because people love peeking into other people's bedrooms and sniffing around their business just to know what's going on. Like, that kind of thing excites us. There's a gajillion-dollar industry around it. So there's been a whole lot of back and forth between his current situation and his ex situation. And so ostensibly, this interview she did was supposed to be about her clothing line, but the snippet that dropped spoke about her wanting to move on from ever speaking about the relationship between her and Jazz and wanting everybody to be happy, which kind of conflicted with everything that went viral on the other platforms, because it wasn't all sunshine and roses and I just want everybody to move on. This was a group of people trafficking in someone else's fame to propel theirs. That's pretty much what it was. So it really, I mean, these kind of fallouts happen. it's going to be repeatedly discussed because of one person's star power, and the internet ran with it. Like, this 25-second clip did amazing numbers. It did more numbers than any substantial news story put out on a daily basis. And these two things taught me that people love this stuff. Love it. Like, is when you get that level of fame, like I asked, is this the price of it? Is it just unavoidable? Because we're at the point where intrusions normalize. I almost, like, hearing people talk about this, they almost feel like they are supposed to know this. Like, they belong as a part of the story, which is something that happens when you live out loud. Which is why, hey, I love that Shawnee Miller does the family drop. You know what? All y'all gonna know is when y'all see the pictures of these cute babies walking on this track. Boom, family reveal. Or I just have a photo shoot. Outside of that, I am going to be quiet about everything else. Y'all ain't gonna know nothing that's going on with me. Because when you give people anything, you leave yourself susceptible to this. At what point does the coverage become consumption? Because sometimes I see things covered, and I understand my sensibilities are not the sensibilities of everyone. Entertainment news definitely does have a place. So I'm not even going to knock that. And I understand why these things are put out there. Because obviously, when you look at the numbers, there is a need for, not a need, there is a demand for people to see and hear about this. And athletes are brands now, which means their personalized become content. Some of them lean into that because of reality TV, and we are definitely in an age where streamers are the newest celebrities. Not in the Bahamas, that'll always be politicians. But in the rest of the world, streamers are the new celebrities, and all they do is give you peeks into their lives 24/7. The question always is going to come is, where is the line, man? Where's the line? Athletes monetize their personality and their skill set. Media is in a space where they monetize the scandal. And so anybody tangentially connected to these people are going to aid in monetizing that scandal. The fans and people like me monetize on the commentary about it. So who owns the boundary? Do the boundaries exist anymore? But I think for us specifically, right, I'll bring it back to a local context. For me, I am absolutely athlete first, which is why I said I don't consider myself a traditional journalist anymore. I always think athletes first, especially when it comes to Bahamian athletes with global platforms. So anytime there's even something that could possibly paint somebody in a less than favorable light, I think twice about it, because I feel a greater responsibility to them than I do to just having some stuff out there from a platform to get some engagement. Because what does that engagement mean in the grand scheme of things in terms of the relationship? To me, I value the relationship that 10YS has with DeAndre Ayton more than that story, more than a post. I value the relationship we have with Jazz more than any of this stuff. I don't even feel like this stuff is my business. So we are not going to do it. We have very few global athletes. A small country with a global lens placed on us because of them. And it adds fuel, and it should cause you to think of these things in a different context and a different prism. And the story should take on a different meaning for you because of that. If you're covering these people, the proximity makes it personal. It's not the same for us as it should be for the American media. And from talking to them, I know how they feel about the way they're covered in the American media. So they actually do expect things to be kind of different from us. And we do try to provide that. Everybody don't care about that. Everybody don't. And we saw a whole lot of that this week. Too much of it this week. We know a lot of this is not going to change. Like, this is the space that we exist in now. The question is, are we going to let the clicks determine character? Should athletes control their own narratives more aggressively? And honestly, we've seen a lot more of them do that. There are two different strategies to it. You could be the silent type and let things play out, or control your narrative. I started this entire segment by talking about the way they were covered before and who controlled the power. That was the media. But now so many of them have their own brands to be able to tell their own stories. You have your own PR team. You no longer actually have to go to the media to say anything. You can release things on your own platform, which is kind of why we see media outlets now competing with influencers or getting in bed with them. But in all this, we do have to remember the only reason any of this matters, the only reason that this is even talked about, is last night you saw what DA did for the Lakers back. Of course, out of the All-Star break, he's back in LA, so was able to get through LPIA, had 13 and 8. Lakers beat the Clippers at home. And on the field, Jazz and the Yankees began spring training. He got the first base hit of spring training. And in the end, that is the thing that matters. That is why we even care about all of this. So remember that, and let's put that part first. I'll start by following my own advice. So obviously, like I said, spring training opened this week. Jazz is one of the many stars on the New York Yankees, but he's the one that loves the microphone in front of his face because Jazz sells his personality and sells his character. And he had a lot to say in spring training. Let's listen to some of that right now.
The team is running it back, and just what do you think of the roster that's in place?
I feel like this is what this team was built for last year. Like, we're running it back because at the halfway point we thought we built a team that was going to go to the World Series, and we still believe that wholeheartedly. So for me, I don't see a problem with running it back with 4 MVPs on your team, you know.
Spring training underway. How are things going for you?
Everything's going great. I mean, I feel good. Body feels good. Feel ready. Getting good at bats. Feel great.
What's the energy like? Just being around the guys again. I know the expectations are high. A lot of returning players, of course. What are the thoughts in the locker room?
I mean, same thoughts we had coming in the last 2 years. You know, we want to go win a World Series. You know, just come in, come do your job every day, come be the best human that you can be, and let's go win a championship.
Now, while attention can distort a moment, sometimes it can elevate one. We'll talk about VJ and his star-making vehicle in LA when we get back.
Game on, Bahamas. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is where sports fans turn picks into play. From football to basketball and everything in between, we've got the odds that move with the game. It's fast, it's fun, it's built for players who know their stuff. So grab your picks, lock in your parlay, and feel the win with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Some fans watch. Real fans play. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook turns every match, every shot, every score into your moment. The better you know the game, the better you play. Now with smarter features and a bigger experience, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players who live the game. The secret is out. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is here, and it's what you've been waiting on. The action never stops. Live odds, live bets, live excitement. The biggest sportsbook is waiting on you. Your team, your moment, your win. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players. You know the game. You live for the rivalries, the buzzer beaters, the Hail Marys. At Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, we're built for that energy because we're built for players. Better odds, faster action, smarter bets. Visit everybodywinslive.com or drop into an EWL location and feel the difference. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players.
All right, we got the nonsense out of the way, so let's get to some of the fun stuff. All-Star Weekend LA. So I think pretty much for every milestone moment of VJ Edgecombe's career, we've been there. If you've listened to 10YS on any platform, whether you listen to the pods or listen to us on the radio, John is never shy about telling you how early he saw this entire thing coming And I mean, it came to fruition, and the story is continuing to build. So whenever we have an opportunity to be there at one of these milestone moments, we're going to make it happen. So immediately we knew, well, VJ's going to be in the Rising Stars Challenge. So we got to get to LA. So I was there to witness it, and he delivered just like he does every single time, because VJ Edgecombe is a bona fide superstar. I don't know how many times people need to see that, but among the best young players in the world, he became the best. And it wasn't just because he scored the most points. It was because he was dominant. It was because he looked like he didn't belong in that game. When the lights got bright, it was almost as if VJ elevated to another level. This wasn't his moment. I feel like his moment came on draft night when he took all the attention from everybody else. This wasn't even the declaration. I feel like the declaration was on opening night of the regular season. The first game of the regular season, when he set records, scored 34 right out of the gate. You understood. This was kind of his arrival to this stage, in the sense that when all of the attention is centrally focused here, I'm still going to be that guy. So don't take it lightly. I know people are going to, and I already heard some of it. It's just an all-star game, blah, blah, blah. No, when the best talents get together, you have to always pay attention to the guy that wants to be the guy in those moments. You have to always pay attention to who people are going to defer to and who is going to set the tone. Look at the All-Star game. Wemby set the tone in that. Kawhi Leonard took over and led his team to a win. Anthony Edwards was the MVP because they set the tone in terms of intensity, and when the game got on the line, the brightest stars shine the brightest. That's what VJ did. But this was an entire thing for me, for our platform in general. It was about the weekend in general. It wasn't just about this. So let's get to the start of the entire LA experience. So it was Friday, Castrol Rising Stars game. I got into town Thursday night or early Friday morning, however you want to call it. But there was a few hours before, and I knew I had to get to the practice session very early, because the Rising Stars practiced early on, then they did media, and it was kind of a quick turnaround before they got to play. It's a whole thing with scheduling all weekend, because NBC, who was carrying all of the All-Star events, was also carrying the Olympics, so there was some time constraints with that, and stuff had to be pushed up earlier. But anyway, so we get there, get to the media availability, and when we go to these things, I mean, it always helps to wear Bahamas gear, because the rest of the media understands, okay, we know what their assignment is. They're not competing with us. Y'all could have all the interviews with everybody else that y'all want to. We have one centralized focus on our assignment. So the setup in the area for the media availability, they have it laid out where the tables are, where each athlete is going to be. So I go straight to VJ's table. Like, they had a rotating list of players based on the team they were playing on. I was just waiting at his table. I think Igor Denham from the Nets was there first, and then VJ showed up shortly after his session was done. And right away, tip to all the future journalists, podcasters, whatever, content creators. You go to cover Bahamian athletes, you always start off by saying something in Bahamian dialect amongst the crowd, because they would never expect to hear that. Pro tip, you just always say it, you get the first question, and then everybody else moves out of the way. And because VJ knows who we are and he knows the brand, so when I say what's up to him, I get the interview started, and it actually helps the rest of the media, because it lowers their defenses, and it kind of puts them at ease and makes the conversation more palatable for everybody else, because you can hear the difference. You can hear the difference when a Bahamian on that stage is talking to a Bahamian reporter. First of all, they don't expect them to be there, because other than us, they ain't never there in the first place. So when So when the conversation starts, I take it to the context of it being, you know what? I'll just let y'all hear
It feels great, man. It's All-Star weekend. Get to compete. Yeah, man, that's it. Let's go hoop.
Third Bahamian to play in the Rising Stars game, but he had 28 when he played. DA had 15 and 8. Just some numbers for you to reflect on. What do you think you got to put up?
It was a different format then. They play the whole game. They play the whole game. I ain't playing the whole game. We go to like, what, 40? Yeah. So we'll see though. We'll see.
What do you think it says about Bahamas basketball that we have a third guy playing this game in such a short time period?
It's growing. It's growing. Yeah, it's growing. And hopefully, in years to come, we got more than one person in the game. So yeah.
Laid back approach to your first All-Star weekend, or out here with a point to prove?
Going under the hoop. Go compete. So we'll see how that goes.
Spoiler alert, that was deception. He was trying to throw everybody off the scent because his plan was not to go out there and see how it goes. His plan was to go out there and win MVP exactly like he did. And I could tell that this was on the way because right after the availability, they go to the practice session, right? And the first thing you notice in the practice session, almost immediately as they walk on the floor, Vince Carter was right next to him. So him and VC shooting jumpers, backstory to this whole thing. So they have a draft for the Rising Stars Challenge. Vince Carter coached the team. Carmelo Anthony coached the team. Tracy McGrady coached the team. Carmelo Anthony's team had the first pick. Melo takes Cooper Flag. Now, if you know the relationship between Melo and VJ dates back to his high school days at Lou High in New York because VJ was high school teammates with Kyan Anthony, Melo's son. So he's been watching his game, I don't know, since he was a sophomore, junior in high school. He watched VJ win Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of New York 2 years in a row. He knew exactly who he was. And he still took Cooper Flag first. And not as a part of the press conference, but when I saw Melo there in the practice session, and VJ kind of gave him this look before they were practicing, right? And it's a look like, yeah, you know what's about to happen. So he walks over, he says what's up to Melo. They exchange pleasantries, but it was one of those I got a point to prove kind of moments. You could tell from the body language. Because before that, VJ was, just kind of coasting through. It's all-star practice, right? It's not anywhere near the level of intensity that you would expect. Although Corliss Williamson tried to make it that. He was trying to coach them in practice for real. But guys were, going through the motions, just gearing up to put on a show for later. But it almost is like when Melo was there, VJ was like, nah, I got a point to prove. And he definitely did. So back to Vince Carter, right? Melo takes Cooper Flag. Huge opportunity for Vince Carter. Right away he goes, well, I'm taking VJ Edgecombe as my first pick. And VC treated it that way. Because like I said, he walked right over to VJ. And those two were just interacting for a majority of the practice. And it seemed like there was an unspoken understanding. So and I think for a lot of the international players, when you come from somewhere smaller and you have to kind of become accustomed to this entire machine around this, these moments actually mean more. Well, for the journalists too, not journalists, for the content creators too. As I say that about VJ at the All-Star game, I'm thinking that about myself as well. When you come from somewhere smaller, the moment means more. So it's not just covering him, it was becoming a part of the story. But you could see there was I'm bouncing back and forth, but you could see there was somewhat of a philosophical similarity between Vince and VJ, if you remember the kind of player that Vince Carter was. I really do feel like he sees a lot of himself in the way VJ plays. Legends recognize something. And I don't think he was gravitating towards him by accident. Like, you could tell every few moments he was like, hey, this is your show. Hey, come on now. So it was those kind of things, like just prodding him on, like, this is your moment to go out there. You're gonna have a lot of these moments over the course of your career, but this is a chance very early on to put your stamp on this whole thing. And I could tell as the practice session went on, it went from, all right, yeah, I get it. I get it. So after the interaction with VJ and Mello, I went over to the media workroom, posted the video to accompany the interview that you heard, and in the caption, I put MVP performance incoming. Hours before the game, just for clarity, just so you know, we were already thinking he was going to win MVP. So the game goes on, and, it was typical All-Star game. Yeah, the Rising Stars Challenge has a different format, so guys were a little more competitive. But it was almost as if VJ was letting everyone else get their shine early. It was almost as if he was, blending into the game. And then it happened. It happened. So the early portion of the game, I'm sitting in the media seats. I decided that it made more sense just to go to the workroom, start to get some stuff done, because you just never know. You try to prep for these things as much as you possibly can. And as I'm walking down, you just hear the PA announcer say it 2-3 times. VJ Edgecombe. You know how they do the sing-song voice. He says it once. And then he says it again. And as I'm walking, I hear him say it again. And I'm like, hold up. By the time I get back to my seats in front of my laptop, at that point, VJ had scored 8 in a row with a chance to win the game. And so, of course, you see Vince Carter up. He's hyping everybody up. And VJ was just trusted in that environment, like, yo, this entire thing is on you. So he hits the step back jumper, scores 17 of his team's 41 in the semifinals. The last 10 points. You would think that it's an emotional peak, because watching that game, there was no way to really see that coming. It was almost as if his body language just completely shifted, and he flipped a switch. He got to another gear that I don't think anyone else on the floor had. That I don't think anyone else was actually prepared to get to. He wasn't observing VJ Edgecombe anymore. He started imposing. Nothing was random. Everything was controlled. He was scoring on all 3 levels. And it looked easy. And he easily became the fan favorite at Intuit Dome. Like, that first night, that was his night. And I don't think anything actually surpassed that until the All-Star game. Because, we saw how whack the slam dunk contest was. 3-point contest, it's all right, I guess. So for 2 nights, I feel like everyone was just talking about, hey, and it's this guy. Like, he's the guy. There's a level of competitive maturity that most rookies don't have. And he had that right away. So that was the semifinals. Stay with me. We're going to have to spin 2 plates at once, just like I had to do that night. So at this point, you got to start doing the math, right? Because me and my boy Ransford, we get the call that we're supposed to be at Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and CP3's party at the Supper Club, but we were told that we had to be there early because the place was overbooked by like 250 people. And if anybody's going to be left out of that mix, it's probably not going to be the NBA players and the people of their entourage. It's probably going to be us. So we start doing the math like, okay, if we're in Inglewood at the Intuit Dome and we got to go, I measure things and how much the Uber's going to cost, and we got to go like an $80 Uber ride away, we got to start figuring out how are we going to get back, get ready before we head to the Supper Club to go to this thing. Because you don't go to All-Star Weekend just for the games. You don't go to All-Star Weekend in LA just for the games, no matter how great you think VJ Edgecombe is. And he's amazing. But nevertheless, still had to get to the Supper Club, right? So I'm thinking, well, if this first game doesn't go the way we want it to go, get the interviews with VJ post-game, that's a wrap. We could leave. A part of the reason why I left my seats and went down to the media workroom, VJ had other ideas. So, all right, we start doing the cost-benefit analysis of how we're going to make this thing go. And we had to leave during the game. We just had to leave during the championship game. And VJ absolutely controlled that moment again. The game-winning free throws. So in 2 games, clear-cut MVP. It was like nobody else was there. 2 games, all-star atmosphere, brightest lights, never rushed, never flinch. And you just get the feeling, just from hearing other media members talk, hearing people around the arena talk, you just get the sense from watching him, and it was not just this game, but since he's been in the NBA in general. Some players just want that moment, and every opportunity VJ has had to have the moment, he seized it. Some players just survive the moment. He looks to control it. He's always playing like he has to prove a point because he's building this narrative. And I think it took him one step closer to becoming a household name. And you gotta view him as a closer at this point because he's had several game winners. Well, it was the one when we were in the building in Philly to beat the Warriors. Then he had another against Memphis. He's developing a reputation as a closer already, and he always makes winning plays, whether it's scoring or something else, always making winning plays. So, but let's get back to me. So, we got to book it. We got to get to the supper club. I'm checking online frantically because I still got to post content. I still got to get stuff out there. Great thing for us, and this is why you have connections. It's good to know people that you could get content from while you're in the space. So still was able to get all of that done and to get to the second most important part of the night, which was absolutely worth it, by the way, if you were wondering. Even if you weren't, you're going to hear about it anyway. So to provide this with proper context, I feel like I've had a grudge against Dwayne Wade since the 2003 Final Four, when this is how I was introduced to him. Like, anybody that knows me knows huge Kentucky fan way before I even went to the school. 2003 Final Four, I felt like we had the team to win. And I know I think that every year, but we really did have a team to win. And I was introduced to this dude from Marquette who nobody could stop or even slow down. I'm watching the pre-games, he's getting all this hype, and yeah, I knew who Dwayne Wade was. Yeah, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. But Keith Bogans could slow him. It sounds funny to say it now in retrospect, right? But no, you got to understand who Keith Bogans was at the time. An incredible college basketball player and seen as this 3-and-D defensive stopper. I was like, no, we good. Keith Bogans could slow this dude down. One person's not going to beat the Kentucky Wildcats. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Dwayne Wade beat UK by himself with a 30-point triple-double. How often do you see that in college basketball? It was one of the most incredible games that I ever saw, but held on to that grudge forever. Even enjoying watching him play in the NBA. Even when LeBron went to the Heat, and I de facto had to become a Heat fan because I am a fan of wherever LeBron goes to play, still held on to that. Because Kentucky would have had 9 titles. If not for Dwayne Wade. Well, probably 10 if the NCAA didn't do that eligibility stuff with Enes Kanter. Well, that was before we learned too much about Enes Kanter that we wanted to know. So in retrospect, that one was okay too. But yeah, Dwayne Wade robbed Kentucky of a title just because he was that good. And I got to say, after the Supper Club party and after the Spades tournament party that he hosted with Taylor Rooks, actually, just for the whole weekend, we good, D-Wade. Like, the hatchet's buried. I feel like we're good. I feel like you more than paid back. You could go have another 30-point triple-double on Kentucky again. All kind of pro players are going back into college basketball. What about retired players? You could go back to Marquette and knock Kentucky out of the NCAA tournament again, and I'd be fine with it because LA was that kind of vibe. But more importantly, back to the business of basketball, it was that kind of vibe for VJ Edgecombe. Now, elephant in the room. Cooper Flag was hurt. Don't care. Don't care. Best ability is availability. If you want to be the superstar, you got to be out there. A whole lot of superstar moments for VJ Edgecombe. Let Cooper go get his in a game that means something. And I'm talking about the fact that AD is gone, no Kyrie is there, and he just gets to shoot the ball 40 times a game while VJ is the fourth option for the Sixers. And that's another reason why I think his performance at this game was so important, because the perception was that the top three picks, Cooper, Dylan Harper, VJ, are going to situations with playoff teams where they don't have to carry pretty much any of the burden. They could resign themselves to be fourth and maybe in Dylan Harper's fifth option, because Dylan Harper comes off the bench, sixth option. Actually, he's probably like closer to their sixth man. Didn't turn out that way for Cooper Flag because Dallas blew the whole thing up. No AD, no Kyrie. But VJ had to spend the entire season trying to figure things out and still figuring it out because the 76ers lineup is one that's in constant flux. So sometimes you won't see the gaudy numbers, but if you watch the games, like I said, you always see him having an impact on winning. And to me, that's why it's so clear-cut that he's the best player in this class. We go from one local hoop star hitting the stage internationally to a couple hundred looking to follow in his footsteps. We're going to talk Hugh Campbell.
Game on, Bahamas. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is where sports fans turn picks into play. From football to basketball and everything in between, we've got the odds that move with the game. It's fast, it's fun, it's built for players who know their stuff. So grab your picks, lock in your parlay, and feel the win with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Some fans watch. Real fans play. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook turns every match, every shot, every score into your moment. The better you know the game, the better you play. Now with smarter features and a bigger experience, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players who live the game. The secret is out. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is here, and it's what you've been waiting on. The action never stops. Live odds, live bets, live excitement. The biggest sportsbook is waiting on you. Your team, your moment, your win. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players. You know the game. You live for the rivalries, the buzzer beaters, the Hail Marys. At Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, we're built for that energy because we're built for players. Better odds, faster action, smarter bets. Visit everybodywinslive.com or drop into an EWL location and feel the difference. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players.
So the Hugh Campbell basketball tournament moved into year 42 this week. 4 decades, very long time. And I always have conflicting feelings about when this tournament rolls around. So this year, I gotta say, the competition has been pretty good. The parity has been there. I always have the sense, though, that we're leaving something on the table, as if there's something more. As if this could be better. And the reason I think that is because we've actually seen better and we just didn't stick with it. But this year's tournament, is it back? I mean, obviously it's still culturally relevant. I will say this, I think it's lost some of that cultural relevance, and that's for several reasons. That's just sports and basketball in general. But there was a time when I think that this extended beyond just sporting culture. It was something that the average Bahamian knew and had some kind of interest in. Not saying that everyone was locked in at all times, but I feel like there was a point where the attention, particularly for the entire week, was a greater theme than it is now. The Nassau-Grand Bahama rivalry was a much bigger deal than it is now. So sometimes I wonder, not just with the players, but with Bahamian sports fans in general, how relevant is it? Is it just still surviving on history? Is Hugh Campbell still the stage, or has that stage moved? Because when I'm watching and when I'm tapping in with this, I feel like the game has evolved, the model for what this should be has evolved, but it's almost as if we haven't evolved with it. We're still stuck, literally still stuck in the place where we played in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Literally the same model. Not a thing has changed. Nothing has grown around it. And for a lot of these kids, when you play on different circuits, if you've played AAU basketball, if you played at a high level, I get the sense that it just seems small. It seems small. It used to be a rite of passage. I don't know if that's still the feeling that a lot of these players have. I don't know if they get into this thinking, well, I can't wait to play in this tournament. It's kind of something we do, but are we looking more forward to this, or are we looking more forward to the AAU circuit in the summer? The reality is the most elite players we have, like VJ, they leave early. So they are hitting, the earlier you hit the US system, the better for you playing a team sport like basketball. DeAndre Ayton, who we talked about earlier in the first segment, left here when he was, 13? VJ was like 15. Buddy was one of the ones who actually stayed later. But for the most part, look at the pipeline like right now. It's filled with guys in college that left pretty early. The pros outside of the NBA filled with guys who kind of left the system early. The prep schools, the AAU circuits, the overseas exposure, that has now become the dominant goal. So it's no longer really showcasing the future stars. It's showcasing the best available. Nothing wrong with that, but that's just different. And it cannot be seen as the same thing. Does that diminish it? I don't think it diminishes it. It has the opportunity to reveal depth. Maybe it's more competitive because of that. And I think that's also part of what we're seeing now, more of a competitive balance. Because if the top 1% leave, we still have to be able to build a basketball culture on the other 99%. So let's get to this year's tournament. That's just thinking about it on the macro, but I do want to focus on the basketball aspect of it just from this year's event. The lead story with Hugh Campbell this year for me has been, you gotta say, it's the pleasant surprise of the BAISS schools. For years, by Wednesday, Thursday, you expect them to be gone. You expect them to be eliminated first. We would actually make fun of that. That's not the case anymore. Development is better. Coaching is better. Most importantly, and this is my favorite part, I think talent acquisition is better. Not just the acquisition and retention. Because you can't just get people, you got to keep them. So because of that, you could say that the talent gap is shrinking. Now, whether it's the basketball version of brain drain, and like I was talking about earlier, a lot of the best players are leaving, and that could be all a part of the reason why you see this gap has been closing. But for whatever the reasons are, whatever the symptoms are, we're here now. And you see the private schools no longer doormats. It feels like this year, in a few years, we may be able to look back at this 2026 tournament and say there's been a cultural shift. Not to say that one of the GSSA or Grand Bahama school won't still win it, but there's no way, however this unfolds, you can say that these teams are a foregone conclusion for you to think about. So this tournament, definitely this year, it seems more parity driven. You have a few stars, but it seems more parity driven based on teams. And when I think of parity in sports, you think of marketability and sustainability. I don't think we do, and this is a broader issue, not just this tournament in general, but that is also a part of the problem. They're not going to have the infrastructure to be able to do this because it's just one small private fundraiser for one school. But it doesn't have the ability to make stars. There's no marketing behind it. There's no machine funding it to the point where it's driven and treated like big business and a big production. That's just not happening. And I don't see a school having the ability to do that. But you know who does have the ability to do that? The government, which is why they probably should host a national tournament. But we can always get to that part later. So maybe this isn't the launching pad for the elites, but you can look at it as a proving ground. So it's not what it was. But that doesn't mean it still isn't something valuable. And I think it still is. Other than the BAISS schools being a surprise on the good side, a surprise on the flip side has been you gotta be kind of shocked at how things have played out for the traditional Grand Bahama powerhouses. St. George's, Tabernacle, Sunline. Two of the last three winners, definitely. St. George's has been the most dominant team in Grand Bahama this year, and so it came as a shock when they lost their first game of the tournament, and that was to C.W. Saunders, who finished runners-up in BAISS. Tabernacle, who made it to the Grand Bahama finals, lost their first game. Faced elimination this morning, actually, against Patrick J. Bethel. Sunland eliminated already. So out of the last 11, 12 teams, a whole lot of surprises in there. Let's look at what today's schedule is going to be like as we get even closer to the pool championships tonight. First game on the schedule, Patrick J. Bethel against Tabernacle. Right after that, it'll be BAISS champs St. John's against Gateway out of Bimini. And then that final game of the first session, GSSSA runners-up R.M. Bailey against Queens College. Then we move to the pool championships, and that tentatively gets started at 5. It'll be the rematch, C.W. Saunders versus St. George's. Like I said, the Cougars won that first one. But this one, the stakes are higher. Stakes definitely higher. St. George's is going to have to rebound from that, run the table. They have looked 100% better. I don't know what it was that first game, but Daryl Sayers has his kids clicking right now, running on all cylinders. So you got to completely forget about that loss and judge them on the way they're playing now, because they do have the ability to run the table. Second pool championship, Pool 2, will be C.I. Gibson, and the winner out of that game 32 between Patrick Bethel and Tabernacle. Now, Patrick Bethel isn't... So we had a funny situation in high school basketball this year. The theme of high school basketball for the year has to be eligibility across the board in every league. Now, the Patrick J. Bethel Marlins were eliminated earlier by the Blazer Elite Dragons. Turns out, Dragons lost that spot in the pool semifinals because of the committee saying that they were using ineligible players. So they're taken out of the bracket. Patrick J. Bethel is put in. They win a game late Friday night, and now they're still alive Saturday morning. But the winner between them and Tabernacle will go on to play C.I. Gibson in the Pool 2 championships. Pool 3, Anatol Rogers, they've had their slew of eligibility issues as well. A lot of people look at them as the favorites, who had been the dominant team in the GSSA all year before things fell apart and all of the issues surrounding that reared its ugly head. But Anatol will await the winner between St. John's and Gateway. So you could have a matchup there between the BAISS champs and the team that has been the best team all season, and that's Anatol Rogers. Pool Championship 4. The winner of RM Bailey and QC will go on to play Westminster. And Westminster, I said in general, the BISS teams have been the big surprise. A lot of that has to do with Westminster directly. And if you have not seen this team play, you got to watch them. They have not been this level of excellent for a very long time. And we've seen a resurgence in this program. And now they're just one win away from reaching heights that nobody saw coming. So this has been a big part of the tournament. You look for it to continue. The thing about these things are, and we always see this in the NCAA tournament as well, when we talk about collegiate basketball, and you see everything that has turned into. By the way, just to backtrack a bit, remember when the NIT used to be the biggest college basketball tournament? No, of course you don't remember. But at one point it was. Now the NCAA tournament, or what we know as March Madness, is. I'm just saying, just because something was there for, 42 years, doesn't mean it still has to be the biggest thing. You can change, you can evolve, you can get better. But anyway, there's still a lot of basketball left to be played. So check that out. The second session scheduled to start at 5 p.m. You've got 4 incredible games in the pool championships. So if you have a chance, head down to the AF Adelaide Gymnasium. Admission for adults is $10. Kids just $5. Should not be difficult at all to pack that gym. Should not be. But I don't know how much faith I have in our people actually coming out. But it's been pretty good basketball, and it only gets better from here as the stakes ratchet up and get even higher. Easy tournament to watch. When we come back, we talk something that may be a bit easier or maybe easy to argue against. We're going to head to the Bud Light Easy Takes of the Week.
Game on, Bahamas. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is where sports fans turn picks into play. From football to basketball and everything in between, we've got the odds that move with the game. It's fast, it's fun, it's built for players who know their stuff. So grab your picks, lock in your parlay, and feel the win with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Some fans watch. Real fans play. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook turns every match, every shot, every score into your moment. The better you know the game, the better you play. Now with smarter features and a bigger experience, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players who live the game. The secret is out. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is here, and it's what you've been waiting on. The action never stops. Live odds, live bets, live excitement. The biggest sportsbook is waiting on you. Your team, your moment, your win. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players. You know the game. You live for the rivalries, the buzzer beaters, the Hail Marys. At Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, we're built for that energy because we're built for players. Better odds, faster action, smarter bets. Visit everybodywinslive.com or drop into an EWL location and feel the difference. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players.
Stafford going to the end zone, reaching up and making the grab.
Bahamas, are you ready for the ultimate Bud Light football experience? Buy 2 6-packs of Bud Light at any Jimmy's Wines and Spirits location or at participating liquor stores, and you're automatically entered to win. You could score an all-expense-paid trip to watch the Dolphins game live. Don't wait. Grab your Bud Light and get in the game today. Bud Light is distributed by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits, who reminds you to drink in moderation.
Bud Light Easy Takes of the Week. Football season may be over, but your Bud Light fandom is not. And if you saw everything that they did for football fans over the course of the NFL season, you should stay locked in because everybody else's time is coming. Your time is coming, but until then, of course, you can continue to still enjoy Bud Light. And it's time for the Bud Light Easy Takes of the Week because some conversations don't need to be complicated. They're smooth. They're crisp. They go down easy. And this conversation is going to be easy. So as you listen, of course, not in the car. Wait until you can stop and find somewhere where you can crack open a cold one because these takes are smooth. Bud Light Easy Take of the Week, number 1. Tevin Charlton was just waiting to peak at the right time. This is the time when it happens, right? We're about a month away from the world champs in Poland. Just had a big win in France on the World Indoor Continental Tour Gold. The women's 60-meter hurdles, women's sprint hurdles in general, probably the most stacked field of any event in track. And because it's so fast and because it's so unpredictable because of all the variables involved, it's one of those few events where literally anyone lined up on the track that day can take it. There's no one dominant figure in the sprint hurdles. But when it comes to the 60, when it comes to indoor, there is one. And that's Devin. So while the 100 may not have that dominant figure, Tevin Charlton's been that dominant figure over the course of the 60, despite all of the competition that this event brings to the table. 2-time world indoor champ, world indoor record holder. So again, she has to be seen as the biggest threat headed into this. And so much of track and field is about timing, is about training cycles. Much smarter people about this stuff than I am can tell you all about it. And we see it happen all the time. You can tell with high school kids. So obviously that same rule applies to the pros, but this is crunch time because there are precious few meets left before world champs, before her time. This is her time of the year. So expectations loom high, and to this point, we have no reason to believe that Devin Charlton will not rise to the occasion because she does every single time. Whether it's on or off the track, by the way. While we're here, we gotta mention how incredible her invitational was. You can't underscore how difficult it is to deal with the logistics of actually having to host your first meet and still be in that championship mindset simultaneously. So that's why I got all the confidence in the world that over the course of this month, we'll see things really start to pick up. We'll see the uptick. And when she gets to Poland, who knows? I'm looking forward to a three-peat because it's unprecedented for us. And by now, we should just be accustomed to her doing some unprecedented stuff. Bud Light Easy Take of the Week, number 2. You've met your match, Nassau. I found someplace where traffic is even worse than you. The traffic in LA is bad. Worse than advertised, actually. You have to plan an hour ahead before you do anything in LA. It doesn't matter if you are going down the street. You got to plan an hour in advance. And I feel like we are trending in that direction. Ask anybody who got to drop kids to school in the morning on a 7x21 island. Probably got to leave like an hour. Hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. Depending on where you got to go and the routes you got to take. But in LA, you don't measure the distance there in miles. I told y'all I was measuring it by Uber cost. You kind of measure it in mood swings. I had a Uber driver tell me, no kidding, he was like, if you're in rush hour traffic, I hope you have either a podcast to listen to or Netflix or some streaming service downloaded on your phone because that's how much you're in for the long haul. Heaven help you if there's a wreck because we were stuck behind one, and it took like almost 2 hours. It's chaotic. It is mentally draining. But the logistics for everything matters. Energy management matters. Not just for athletes, by the way. Also for the content creators that gotta cover this stuff. So, I can't commend Nassau traffic too much. I'm just simply saying, y'all ain't the worst in the world. Probably like top 5 for sure. But just not the worst. Bud Light easy take of the week number 3. The NBA should eliminate the draft. Just go straight to free agency. I feel like it'll do away with all the complaints and all the bickering that has been going on in the media spaces, both for the NBA and for the NCAA. So think about it, right? In the NBA, everyone is caught up in complaining that teams are tanking. On a night-to-night basis, whether it's affecting the sports betting money, which we know it does, very important to us here, whether it's affecting that or it's affecting the fan experience, because on a night-to-night basis, you actually don't know who's going to be in the lineup. And it's hurting the product on the floor. It's hurting the integrity of the product. Take, for instance, when you saw the Jazz get fined because they were just blatantly taking out all of their good players with leads at the end of the third quarter. And this is a top-heavy draft. It's a lot like last year's draft, but this is seen as a very top-heavy draft. And teams that made trades that involve pick swaps, they want to make sure they keep their picks. So teams are unapologetically tanking and do not care about the fines. And now Adam Silver is saying there has to be a fix for next season because the noise around it is getting too loud. Take it over to the NCAA. A complete sham that the one and done thing is still a practice. They're still forcing kids to take this year when you know for a fact, and the fact that NIL money is involved now, and so much NIL money is involved for players of elite talent, like Darren Peterson, who's become the avatar for this superstar, a freshman at Kansas, projected to be a top 3 pick. But he is now seen as the same way how Kawhi is the villain of load management. Well, now that's what it seems like. There's a media campaign to make Darren Peterson be the same. And if I knew I was going to be able to make millions of dollars, I had to go to college for 5 months, pretend to be a student, and just play basketball, I would completely manage my body and play when I feel like, the same way that Darren Peterson is doing. Because there is no way that any right-thinking person could even assume for a slight second that his allegiance is to the Kansas Jayhawks beyond these couple of months to get him ready to go to the league. What's the purpose of college? To get you ready to go and do your job. Darren Peterson's job is going to be an NBA player. Ain't nothing Kansas doing for him over these 5 months are going to change that. So if my concern is my body and being 100% ready for the combine, for the draft, because that is when generational wealth happens, how y'all want me to be concerned about a Tuesday night game against Iowa? The model has shifted. It's just not the same. And I know everyone in both of these organizations want to keep the sham of amateurism going and thinking about that's supposed to be at the top of the importance for these players playing for these legacy programs. But no, that's just not the way it is anymore. So to eliminate all that, just go straight to free agency. Instead of Darren Peterson worrying about where he's going to go, or AJ DeBansto, or Cam Boozer, or any one of these extremely talented players in this draft. Just go straight to a free market system for everybody. It gives player autonomy. You'll finally have true market value. And teams would have no reason to tank anymore. The only issue people could have with it, I don't know if most fans are fans of freedom of movement. I don't know if people are fans of player choice. They call this era player empowerment almost like it's a disease. And it's said with disdain. And whenever I hear it, I love it. Because if the people responsible for creating the machine aren't the ones empowered, then who should be? Now, the argument for having a draft and against this free market, free agency, people think small markets are going to collapse. But I think if you have enough talent around, the talent's going to find a way to get exposure. I mean, would it be the worst thing if some of the teams weren't in the league? When we think about it. People also cite that there may be competitive imbalance. So think of a more video game version of super teams. But I don't think that'll be the case because you still have the salary cap. And how much of these guys, look, basketball is all well and good, but they came into this to be extremely rich. It's like the same reason you do anything else. So do not expect that everyone is going to do this New York Knicks power friendship thing. You're still going to have a competitive balance because people want to get paid. The development pipeline already isn't there. The development pipeline is happening in high school. Yes, some people do progress in college. I'm talking about the elites who are ready right away. The draft may not be perfect, but it's the system we have. I am just one that always wants to see chaos. I want to see what people have to do in this new way of doing things. Most of all, I just want to see tanking stop. It's the worst. Bud Light Easy Take of the Week number 4. Chris Paul deserves so much better from the NBA. So much better from the NBA. People should be ashamed. Like, this is one of the greatest players in NBA history. This is a point guard tier talent. Statistically, one of the greatest when you talk about assists, when you talk about steals, just in terms of being a competitor, even off the court, being a union leader. The league failed him. The league failed him. He made the Clippers palatable. If he didn't get hurt, Houston does irreparable damage to that Golden State Warriors dynasty. He took Phoenix to the finals for the first time in, 30 years when it happened? I think the totality of his career is so much bigger than, okay, he didn't get a ring. All the greats are not going to get a ring. Those are really hard to get. Deserve has nothing to do with championships. In team sports, so much other intangibles matter than you just thinking someone is good enough and they just deserve it. That just doesn't happen. Basketball gods don't care about resume. But the way everything played out in this final year with the Clippers and everything that went on between Chris Paul and Tyronn Lue and them just forcing him out unceremoniously when this was supposed to be the year he gets his farewell tour. It's ridiculous, man. And I actually think everything that's happened with the Clippers has vindicated Chris Paul. This is someone who should have been the MVP in that 2007-2008 season. The Clippers are completely falling apart. James Harden got up out of there with the swiftness. Then they trade Zubac. Who knows what's happening with Kawhi and the investigation into his aspiration deal. And Harden actually had a great quote when he was asked in media availability about loyalty. And people have this ridiculous notion that there has to be some sort of loyalty from players to this random laundry that finances their lives. But there is no loyalty that comes from these organizations. When they are done with you, they're done with you. So why would people be against players making that same decision and having autonomy over their careers? Because you could be an all-time great and do everything right, and you could get done like Chris Paul. And one of his biggest sins in this last season was that he was still trying to be him. He was still trying to be a leader. He was still trying to be involved. And that's not what the Clippers wanted. They wanted him to sit to the end of the bench, be the 16th man, grab towels, just sit back and enjoy the ride for his last season. Well, that's just not him. And if that's who he was, there's no way that he would be the player of his size that was able to achieve the things that he did on the basketball court. I hope this is not the end of his story. I hope he trains this year and he comes back and he gets the farewell tour with someone else, because CP3 deserves it. He's the last of a dying breed, and he's one of the elder statesmen in the league that actually has been a good guy. Have you ever heard Chris Paul get in trouble for anything other than punching people in the region that no man should ever be punched in? Wonder if that's why they let him go. And finally, Bud Light Easy Take of the Week number 5. We're going to continue to rally the troops until it actually happens. Bring back high school basketball nationals. This deserves to be done on a bigger stage. It deserves to be done in a better way. If we're serious about development, we need stages.
Stafford going to the end zone, reaching up and making the grab.
Bahamas, are you ready for the ultimate Bud Light football experience? Buy 2 6-packs of Bud Light at any Jimmy's Wines and Spirits location or at participating liquor stores, and you're automatically entered to win. You could score an all-expense-paid trip to watch the Dolphins game live. Don't wait. Grab your Bud Light and get in the game today. Bud Light is distributed by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits, who reminds you to drink in moderation.
Game on, Bahamas. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is where sports fans turn picks into play. From football to basketball and everything in between, we've got the odds that move with the game. It's fast, it's fun, it's built for players who know their stuff. So grab your picks, lock in your parlay, and feel the win with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Some fans watch. Real fans play. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook turns every match, every shot, every score into your moment. The better you know the game, the better you play. Now with smarter features and a bigger experience, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players who live the game. The secret is out. The all-new Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook is here, and it's what you've been waiting on. The action never stops. Live odds, live bets, live excitement. The biggest sportsbook is waiting on you. Your team, your moment, your win. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players. You know the game. You live for the rivalries, the buzzer beaters, the Hail Marys. At Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, we're built for that energy because we're built for players. Better odds, faster action, smarter bets. Visit everybodywinslive.com or drop into an EWL location and feel the difference. Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, built for players.
This segment, like our show, is powered by Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, your home for spreads, totals, futures, live in-game bets. Bet smart. Dive into the odds that matter, not just this weekend, but for the foreseeable future with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. So many ways to win, so many ways for you to play. No matter what it is, no matter your sport, no matter what you are interested in, you can find it on Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. The weekend is a huge time for soccer, so check out Matchday Mania, one of the many promotions on EWL. Every weekend you get a chance to win $1,000. You know you want to bet on the Big Five. That's Premier League, Bundesliga, League One, Serie A, wherever you find soccer across Europe. Bet on it. Have your chance to win big with Matchday Mania. And returning this week, both of the leagues were on a break. NBA was on All-Star break. NHL still on their Olympic break. But the leaderboard will be back because the NBA is back in full swing. So be sure to bet. Let those bets stack up over the course of the week, and you have your opportunity to get a share of the grand prize. This week, I want to dive into college hoops with a local connection. Now, Coach Yo has Ole Miss playing with the contenders, and what she's built in the SEC to be able to bring that program to the point where it is now, it's been amazing to watch. And while I'm so excited to see where that can go, watching them this week, it just had me thinking you could get some favorable lines. There is value to be found when Ole Miss plays against the contenders. So they had a week after losing against two ranked teams. They had a week where they beat They had a week where they beat number 21 Tennessee. I was having a flashback to the Pat Summitt days. They beat They beat number 21 Tennessee and followed just 2 days later with a game they should have had against number 6 LSU. That one still hurts. But they covered. A lead headed into the fourth quarter. Ole Miss just had one of the worst fourth quarters they had all season. It was their first loss at home at the SJB Pavilion. But you got to look ahead, and Coach Yo's post-game tweet that she sent out, or what she put on social media, just reaffirmed what I think the fan base needed to hear and what women's college basketball needed to hear. I say all that to say, they covered against number 6 LSU, but this is the game that we want to pay attention to right here. February 22nd, this is the showdown. By the way, this is a ridiculous gauntlet that Ole Miss has had to run through the SEC. Some of it is just the fact that, the SEC is going to be the SEC. It has the most talented women's college basketball teams in the country. But at the same time, because of all the weather delays over the past few weeks, it caused the schedule to look absolutely crazy. So if you just look at what LSU has done in about a 7-day span, that's 3 ranked teams. That's Tennessee, that's LSU, and now it's going to be South Carolina on February 22nd on the road. They're taking this show on the road. So it came so close to beating LSU at home. South Carolina is going to come into this game favored by double figures. And we want that. We want them to come into this game favored by double figures because I'm taking Ole Miss to win outright. I think this is the game that really catapults Coach Yo into the national conversation. A part of that happened already when she was a guest on Stephen A. Smith's show. It would have been so timely to have the win over LSU, but there is no time in the SEC to think about the game that you missed, only time to think about what's in front of you, because you go from frying pan into the fire now against South Carolina. Early projections on EWL Sportsbook says South Carolina is favored by 17. I will take that any day of the week because Ole Miss is not getting ran out of the building like that. Not Coach Yo's team. If you follow hoops, you know what a Dawn Staley team brings to the table. They are perennial title contenders. The spread reflects that. But Ole Miss is a live dog if the points hold. They compete. The defense is elite. You could put this defense up against anybody in the nation. So for me, let's think about a live betting angle here, right? Because I'm gonna take Ole Miss to win outright. Probably gonna hedge it. I think they do. I think they do cover at the very least, right? If South Carolina jumps out big early, I still look at Ole Miss as a comeback hedge, man, because of that defense. I think that defense is going to keep them in games. It may be concerning about the fact that they collapsed in the fourth quarter against LSU, because do I have to be more concerned now about the offense? Total points, I'm taking the under in this one just because the MO of an SEC game is tight defensive struggle. It either goes one of two ways. It's blowout on one end or tight defensive struggle. And like I said, don't think it's a blowout. I am taking Ole Miss to win outright. I just think it's time. Let's go over to the NBA, fresh out of the All-Star break, back to the games that count. No football, so this is a time when basketball really takes the reins. You're still a ways away from baseball playing the games that count. And even so, baseball is 160-something games. Like, they're going to be there for a while. But now it's time for basketball to take over. To take control of your Sunday and fill that void where football used to be. Don't panic. Don't worry. It'll be back. Just enjoy the hoops in the meantime. Let's go straight to Sunday afternoon. Early start at 1 p.m. You got the Cavs on the road headed to the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's still a lot to be determined with the James Harden move. Whenever mid-season trades happen, I think people always point to Rasheed Wallace going to the Pistons as the poster child for, hey, this thing can work. But Rasheed Wallace came in and fit in that situation. You have James Harden, who calls himself the system. Wherever he goes, he's the system. For all the negative things people have to say about James Harden, about how many times he demands a trade or moves out of the situation that he doesn't like, to me, none of that is a negative. I feel like when you have built that level of talent and you perform on this stage consistently like he has, except for in the playoffs, but he does not miss regular season games, and he always performs at a high level. So you know exactly what you're getting from him. And I do think that the Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell backcourt probably went as far as that one was going to go. So I did like the move for Cleveland. I just don't know if half a season is enough for that continuity to develop to really challenge in what is going to be a very difficult Eastern Conference. On the other side, OKC's just got to get healthy, right? Still without Jalen Williams. I don't think they win a title without Jalen Williams. So at some point, he's going to have to come back before the playoffs just to get ready, just to get back to the point. He's not going to get back to the point where he was last year, but they need him closer than he is now. So maybe he can come back while SGA is still sidelined. Early on in the season, people were talking about this team flirting with the Warriors' record. That's how afraid everyone was of OKC. I mean, that veneer has been removed, thanks in large part to San Antonio. But I think this could actually help the supporting cast of the Thunder to not rely on SGA to score the baskets when they need to be the closer. Maybe this is where Chet Holmgren really takes that star turn. Maybe this is where he has to go from second, third guy to, okay, I need a way to consistently find my shots virtually every trip down the floor. So if he's forced into that role now, bodes well for what they do in the playoffs, because a team like OKC, you come in as the defending champs, you're playing for the playoffs. Playing to avoid San Antonio too. Second game on the afternoon. Brooklyn Nets on the road, traveling to face the Atlanta Hawks. And the only interest I will have in this game is to see if the Hawks can finally play Buddy some sort of meaningful minutes. What is it now? 3-4 games in. And the only time he saw the floor was 5 minutes in a blowout loss to the T-Wolves. I don't know why he's there. There's no way for him to get out. It sounds like Buddy's being held captive, and I feel like their front office is holding him captive, because why is he there? Why is he there? Like I have to stay away from this game in terms of betting just because I hate the Hawks so much for how this is going to play out. Almost as much as I hate the Warriors. When we go to game 3, Warriors are hosting the Nuggets, still without Steph, so this game doesn't matter. Friday night, the Nuggets blew away the Trailblazers by like 50 points. So that Denver from a few years ago when they won the title, I mean, Jokic is always going to be the same guy, right? Came back healthy, and I think he missed too much time to be eligible for MVP. That's the only way he was going to be stopped. Keeping it going, Raptors and Bucks, nothing to see here. No Giannis, so really nothing to see from the Bucks. Raptors win big in that one. Evening games, more of the same. What is this, like the Rick Carlisle game? Mavericks against Pacers? I mean, no reason to watch Dallas. For all the promise that Dallas had early in the season, thinking that you were going to have AD, Kyrie, Cooper Flag, it just never materialized. And so now Cooper Flag's not even playing. So on a day-to-day basis, you don't know who you're watching when you watch the Mavericks. I just wish they got Klay Thompson out of there. Can he still get out of there? I mean, it seems like he's just, I mean, if you had to choose between what's happening with the Mavericks right now and Megan Thee Stallion, we all just choose Megan Thee Stallion, right? He could legitimately just stay home and I don't think anyone would care. It'd be fine. I'd stay home. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, we started with our guys, we're going to finish with our guys. So the two games that we really want to lock in on, these matter not just for standings, not just for the narratives, but, I mean, it's the Everybody Wins Live segment. So, of course, for bettors as well, we got Philly versus Minnesota, injury, drama, and momentum colliding, and then we've got basketball royalty, Lakers versus Celtics, and of course, Bahamians involved in both. Let's start in Minnesota. The big picture in this game, the T-Wolves have been one of the strongest home teams in the league. They've been Western Conference contenders the last few years, and that's a big part of the reason why Anthony Edwards has leapt into the discussion of face of the league. Even though anytime anyone brings it up, he runs away from it faster than he runs away from his publicist, who probably tells him, say the right thing and probably try to stop cursing in live interviews. He's not listening to them. He's also not listening to the groundswell of opinion that wants him to be the face of the league because Americans need one. When you look at it, the Euros have dominated. They've been, the last 5 MVPs? That streak is, let me not say Euros. The international players have been the last 5 MVPs. So American basketball absolutely needs a face. They thought it would be Ja Morant or Zion. Clearly not the case. So in comes Anthony Edwards. But at the same time, he's not as willing to play the corporate game as the league would need the face to be. Anyway, so the T-Wolves, we know what their identity is. It's built on defense. It's built on rim protection. That's due in large part to Rudy Gobert. Julius Randle has actually been a great addition defensively. I know a lot of people thought it was a huge downgrade when they traded him for Cat, but Julius Randle has filled into that role well, and it's actually just provided, addition by subtraction is kind of harsh, but it's given Anthony Edwards the leeway to pretty much just do whatever he wants offensively, and you saw right out of the All-Star break, 40 points for him. Minnesota continues their streak they had going before the break. On the other side, Philly, every single matchup swings depending on Joel Embiid's status. This game in particular, because you're going against a front line with Gobert, with Randle, with Naz Reid coming off the bench. When Embiid sits, the Sixers' offensive rating drops significantly. They're a different team. There's no getting around that. Tyrese Maxey, yes, he's still the primary scorer on this team. He's still always going to have a higher usage rate, but there is a stark contrast in the way they play. The pace, obviously, is a whole lot quicker when Joel Embiid is not there. But if there's a matchup where Andre Drummond has to play heavy minutes, then pretty much offensively you're playing 4-on-5. And that changes a lot. Yeah, Drummond's going to get boards, but Drummond is just not a threat to do anything offensively. So it would depend on, as we saw against the Hawks, big rebounding game for him, but didn't do much else. So it's all based on Embiid, and that's what you'll have to watch leading up to game time. If Embiid plays, the T-Wolves are going to be favorites either way, but I think that number is just going to change based on the injury report and what we get from Embiid. So that total is going to be somewhere between the 222 to 226 range, which I think is fair. Philly is one of the highest scoring offenses in the league, so I'm going over with that. But I'm also taking Philly to cover, irrespective of whether Embiid plays or not. If Embiid does sit, though, take Philly to cover at least. I'm taking them outright to win if he plays. If he sits, they're covering. In terms of a prop breakdown, VJ's numbers also shift based on Embiid being in or out. So when Embiid's out, it looks closer to what it looked like at the beginning of the season where you had VJ Max just running the show. Everybody knows that that's the nickname of their backcourt, right? It's pretty much VJ. Okay. So if Embiid is in the lineup, take VJ over 15 points. This is one of those matchups I think he relishes because Anthony Edwards is going to go at him. Anthony Edwards is going to talk. And it'll be reminiscent of what happened against Memphis when Ja Morant was going at VJ and got the better of him several times. But at the end, it was VJ hitting the game winner. I think Anthony Edwards is going to provide that same kind of matchup. So I actually look forward to it because of VJ's competitive nature. I want to see what he brings to the table here. But I'm taking him over 15 points in this matchup. Anthony Edwards, his over-under is set at 27.5. I'm going over on that as well. Let's go over to the other game. We move away from analytics and get to legacy, probably the most aesthetically pleasing game. And it's aesthetically pleasing to the NBA in terms of numbers. If this is the finals, and I'm not saying it will be, I'm just saying if it is, the NBA would love that. After having a Thunder Pacers final last year. I talked about this earlier in the segment when we talked about things like Hugh Campbell in the NCAA tournament. We love the Cinderellas, but yeah, you need your blue bloods to ultimately get there. So a whole lot of basketball culture, well, people that just have a rooting interest in basketball probably learned about a lot of the Pacers, Thunders players during that finals run. When it comes to Lakers Celtics, you just know them based on the laundry. So in terms of a marketing standpoint, that would be great. Will this be a finals preview? Well, no, because neither one of them are the best teams in their conference, so probably not. But we know what Boston's bringing to the table without Jason Tatum. They're one of the biggest surprises in the league, bar none. Because I think when Tatum went down with that Achilles injury at the end of their playoff run, you pretty much expected Boston to punt on the season. Jaylen Brown has not. Jaylen Brown has emerged into a legit MVP candidate and for most of the year has had this team hovering in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference standings. Him and a collection of white players that they find that nobody knows how to mine for the gold of white players like the Utah Jazz and the Boston Celtics. It's an incredible skill set. Their front offices do an amazing job. They play to their constituents. So they've got elite spacing manifesting around Jaylen Brown. They got guys that switch on defense, can play multiple positions. It's a lot like what you saw the Pacers do in their run to the finals. On the Lakers side, you know what the Lakers run, pretty much how Luka runs, the Lakers are going to go. Luka leads the team in I know Ayton's the leading rebounder, but on a game-to-game basis, if you look at the ESPN stat log, you could just see Luka's face with everything. So the game last night, Luka led them in every statistical category to beat the Clippers, and that's kind of the way the Lakers seem to be comfortable playing for the regular season. Will shift slightly towards the playoffs, but that's the way this team is run now. Luka Doncic is going to be with the high usage rate. They struggle defending perimeter heavy teams. Boston's a perimeter heavy team. Boston is not going to look for any sort of scoring inside. So Luka's going to have to stay in front of somebody. So is Austin Reeves. So is LeBron. They're going to have to close out on shooters. And so far, that has been one of the Achilles heels of this Lakers team so far. Celtics are favored. Well, right now, again, this is depending on how that lineup is going to look. But as it stands, Celtics will be favored by 1.5. Over-under on this game, 229. And the books see this as a tight game, which means the props are going to matter on both sides. I am taking the Lakers to win outright on this. I just think this is a different team when Austin Reeves is healthy. And for all of the trouble that the Lakers have had, I think you have to recognize the fact that there has been a minimal amount of games where all of the talent has been collected on the floor at once. I think Luke Kennard is going to make a difference down the line, but that was a move for the playoffs. We're not going to see over the course of the next 40 games or so. It's just going to be trial and error with that. LeBron has figured out where he fits in this lineup. He's figured out when to go and when not to. Austin Reeves has to figure that out within the confines of everything here. And of course, bring it back to our guy, DA. Still our guy, no matter what transpired this week. So I'm looking at him specifically when I look at props. You can pretty much, if you're running a same game parlay, you can, for the most part, always find value on Ayton's point total. So for instance, last night, I had him over 10 points, over 8 boards against the Clippers. Got the 10 points, fell 1 rebound shy in a totally frustrating way, but fell 1 rebound shy. And I have a feeling over the course of the next few days, because he got all this negative attention, because there was such negative publicity from home and from everywhere else, he now has to play with a point to prove. And there was one possession where the Lakers scored without the ball touching the floor. Austin Reeves got the rebound, long outlet to LeBron. DA was running the floor. LeBron kicks the alley-oop to him. He finishes with the dunk. And that was one of the moments where he seemed to be embraced by the entire culture. It was one play, but it seemed symbolic of, yeah, this is how things can be run. This is what it can look like when you have DA playing at a high motor. I like both of his prop bets. Again, I'm going over 10 points, over 8 rebounds again against the Celtics. I think he can be, and he doesn't ever have to be a dominant force. He is kind of in the same position as VJ is in terms of when the lineup is completely healthy. 4th option. Luka's going to get 25 shots. Austin Reeves going to get 15 to 20. Braun's going to get 15 to 20 depending on how the game flows. Then Ayton comes after that. So do away with the notion right now expecting him to be this 23 and 12 guy. Not going to happen. And it's also not what this team needs. The question is this still a rivalry game, or is it always just a rivalry based on the laundry? Is Celtics-Lakers always going to be a thing? I know with a certain generation it always will be. If you were a basketball watcher in the 80s, always on site between these two teams. Bounce back for a next generation. Because Kobe and the Celtics Big Three went at it twice. Reinvigorated all of those. Is it back again? No, it's actually not. It's not. But like I said, I'm taking the Lakers in this one. I'm taking Ayton's overs, over 10 points, over 8 boards. So if you're playing the spreads, just keep watching the injury reports. If you're playing props, continue to watch the matchups and live betting. Please watch those first 5 minutes and see where the game is trending. I mean, that's the whole deal with the live in-game betting, which you can do in Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. Follow the trends early. Make your decisions wisely. And just like that, that's another edition of the Accredited in the books. Thank you to our sponsors, Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook. I know you enjoyed the Bud Light Hot Takes of the week. We covered the culture, we covered media and athletes and the attention economy colliding. We gave you those easy takes of the week. Tried to break down the betting angles with Everybody Wins Live Sportsbook, and we try to separate what's really going on from what's just noise out there. At the end of the day, the show is about perspective, not just hot takes. And I know that's a strange thing for us to say, but it's about having a different perspective, and I hope I was able to shed some light on things. And even if you disagree, not asking you how to think, asking you if you'd like to think. We appreciate you listening. If you are listening live, if you're catching the replay, make sure you like, share, and subscribe with somebody who actually knows ball, or even if they just want to keep the conversation going. We're here for everybody involved. I'm Ronaldo. This has been The Accredited. Remember, don't just watch the game. Don't just think about the issues. Try to understand them. We'll see you next week.